So, Hare Krishna, we will begin our Srimad Bhagavatam session today, as usual, by dedicating this to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Shrato Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohana Divyadvrindaranyo Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratna Gada Simhasanostau Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prashtali Bihi Sevyamanu Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Statastitaha Karshan Venu Swanergopir Gopinata Shriestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam sukamukadamrita dravya samyutam vibhata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah Nama Pankajanaಭಾಯ Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre त्वयि मे आनंद विषय मतिर्मधुपतिया सकृत् रतिम् उद्वहतात् अदा गंगे वौगं मुदन्वतिः. O Madhupate, Lord of sweetness, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Iti Namini Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langaitim girim yatkripa tamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, everybody. So, welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam session. It's been a blissful week. We have Ram Navami festivals, and today is Ekadasi Tithi, and tomorrow is Mahadwadasi Tithi. So, although it is Ekadasi Tithi today, but we will be fasting for Ekadasi tomorrow, not today, because on sometimes the Ekadasi comes together with something called Mahadwadashi. So this is a rare occasion which occurs once in a while, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So when Mahadwadashi comes, that time the fasting is shifted to Mahadwadashi, right? So that's one of the cases today. So today, though it is Ekadasi Tithi, very, very auspicious, and it is extra auspicious because it comes together with Mahadwadashi as well. So happy fasting tomorrow and happy hearing and chanting.
Krishna.
Just mute. So let's recap a little of chapter 13. So it's a very interesting topic. Dhritarashtra quits home. So this is Dhritarashtra. You know, the entire Bhagavad Gita begins with Dhritarashtra Uvacha, how Dhritarashtra first opens the Bhagavad Gita. So now we hear the closing of what's happening, what happens to Dhritarashtra in the end. So he quits home, the chapter is entitled. So how does that come about? What happened? So all this we will hear in this chapter. So the chapter began with this description of Mahatma Vidura. If you remember, Vidura is the uncle of the is the uncle of Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas. He's the brother of Dhritarashtra and also the brother of Pandu. So, and Vidura was born from a maid servant, right? So the story we recounted in the last session. So, and the pastime of how Vidura, who was actually Yamaraj himself, how he came down to this world due to the curse of Mandukya Muni, all this we discussed in the previous session. So anyway, the point is, Vidura, at the onset of Mahabharata, he left Hastinapur on a pilgrimage because he was rejected by Duryodhana. Duryodhana insulted him in court and refused to take his advice. And Vidura also thought, okay, this is pointless to give good advice to these people. They are not going to listen. So many times I've given, and I can only see impending disaster for this, and I cannot bear to see that. So therefore, I will take this opportunity to leave the palace and go on a pilgrimage and fully immerse myself into spiritual activities. So in this way he left, and then he went and he met Uddhava, and then after that Uddhava told him to take initiation and hear from Maitreya Rishi. So then he went to Maitreya Rishi and he heard from Maitreya Rishi very nicely about the Atma Tattva, spiritual knowledge. And after hearing, he left with a mission to go to Hastinapur. So what is his mission? So we will hear about that today. But we also heard about how Mahatma Vidura was received very, very nicely by Yudhishthira Maharaj, the king of Hastinapur at that time, the king of the world. So Mahatma Vidura's return to Hastinapur and how he was received very nicely. But before that, This is recapping how Mahatma Vidura had gone for a Tirtha Yatra. So Tirtha means holy places, Yatra means pilgrimage. So he went on Tirtha Yatrayam. Why? To get Atmana Gatim, to obtain spiritual knowledge, Atmanaha. And spiritual knowledge culminates in Bhaktir Govinde, devotion to the Supreme Lord Govinda. That is the culmination of all spiritual knowledge. If all kinds of spiritual knowledge does not culminate in devotion to the Lord Govinda, then that spiritual knowledge is understood as incomplete. So here Srimad Bhagavatam clarifies that very nicely. So that is, and after that he came back to Hastinapur and received very nicely by Yudhishthira Maharaj. So we heard how one can suitably receive a great transcendentalist, a Mahatma. How these are the ways to receive. Prahar Sena, display of gladness. So we heard how everyone rushed to receive him just by their actions and their body language and their face. One who is coming can see how glad everybody is to receive. Sometimes we go to someone's house and then they look at you with a cold face, and then you don't feel very welcome, although they may say, okay, come here, come, but then the face conveys a different meaning. So that is not the standard of receiving someone. Not what to speak of a great personality, even an enemy. According to Vedic culture, one should receive him very, very nicely. So what to speak of a great personality, a Mahatma like Vidura? So display of gladness, abhivadanai, obeisances. So that is very much culture in spiritual life. We offer obeisances. Bhuktavantam, prasadam, giving nice bhukta. So, serving the body of the transcendentalist by offering that personality, foodstuffs, prasadam, and a place to sit. So, Vishrantam, a resting place for them to rest, to refresh themselves. Sukham asane, and allowing him to be seated comfortably. So these are all the things which are done, and then only prashraya avanantaha, very gently and meekly, right? Put questions and speak to the personality. So that is the way. So even in Bhagavad Gita, tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. So Krishna says one should approach a, a spiritual master, or one should approach one who has one who has seen the truth. One should approach one who has seen the truth. How should one approach? Very, very humbly and meekly, offering service and asking questions. So these are the ways to approach a personality in that way. And that if one approaches in that way, then the transfer of knowledge is complete, is perfect. Devavat, like Devatas. So Vidura was received just like how a Devata would be received in the home of a person. So indeed, in Vedic culture, receiving a guest is akin to receiving the Supreme Lord himself. As if the Supreme Lord himself comes to one's house, one should receive that personality in that way. It is said that if one announces one's arrival, then the person who's receiving you gets the credit of serving, of receiving Lord Indra. But if you get an unannounced guest and you serve him very nicely, then you get the credit of receiving the personality of Godhead himself. So that is what Vedic culture talks about, receiving guests. What to speak of great personalities? So very, very nicely offering them garland, offering them chandan. So all these things are done in receiving a great personality. So besides learning about spiritual topics, about philosophy, about various stories, we should analyze very carefully as we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because there's a lot of culture one should also understand. Spiritual knowledge comes in three ways. It is siddhanta, sadhana, and sadachar. Siddhanta is the philosophy and the theory and the understanding of the science of spiritual knowledge, right? That's one aspect. And then that has to translate into sadhana. Sadhana means one has to also act to purify oneself and to perform some activities for the pleasure of the Lord, which is devotional service. For example, chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds every day, that's a sadhana. Following four regulative principles, that's a sadhana. Following, observing Ekadasi fasts and holy festivals, that's also a sadhana. So like that, and controlling, one's speech, one's tongue, one's doing austerities. These are all parts of the sadhana, spiritual practices that one does. And the third aspect of it is sadachar. Sadachar is the aspect of behavior. So there are, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, there are some people who preach very nicely. Their Siddhanta is very good. Their knowledge, philosophy is very good, right? And sadhana, that one nobody will know unless it's because sadhana is something very personal. It's between the guru and the Lord, right? One may say one is chanting 16 rounds, but is one really doing it? So that is something one has to be very, very, that's where sincerity comes from, right? The Lord is in the heart. But it has to translate into also behavior. One has to have the ornaments of good behavior, good etiquette. One has to know how to relate with people, right? How to relate with seniors, how to speak with guru, how to speak with what is the proper way to act, manners, in other words, right? Sadachar, proper behavior. So this is very important. So all these aspects are all subtly put and packaged in all these stories and all this discussion in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should be open and very sensitive to hear about all this as we are hearing. So we heard about the sadachar, the etiquette of receiving guests, right? Then we also heard how Dharma Rajena, the son of the saintly king, the saintly pious king, Yudhishthira Maharaj, how Dharma Rajena spoke to Dharma Raja. So as we know, Yudhishthira Maharaj is none other than Dharma Raja himself, Yamaraj, right? He has come in this guise due to the curse of Mandukya Muni. He has come as, so he is also known as Dharmaraj, the Lord of Dharma, or the Lord of Death is also known as the Lord of Dharma. And his son, right, is Yudhishthira Maharaj, Dharma Rajena. So it's interesting play of words. Dharma Rajena spoke to Dharma Raja. So he started with expressions of gratitude. So that's another very important aspect. Gratitude is one of the first things one should have in dealings with spiritual masters, with those who are, in the spiritual line, because we get so many things from them, right? We get knowledge, we get blessings, and so forth. So the Lord is very, very always careful to note how much of gratitude someone has, uh, particularly. So you know so it's a very important aspect of that. So he spoke about how Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas were so grateful for Vidura's protection, how Vidura will shower their affection on them, how he protected them from so many danger and intrigue from Duryodhana. So we heard about all that in the previous session. And he also expressed his concern because he was very dear. Vidura is very dear to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Everybody loved him. And when he just left the kingdom and nobody knew where he went, how he stayed. So, and he's also an elderly person. So he's asking, how did you go? What did you do in your pilgrimage? Where did you stay? How did you have food to eat? So he was expressing his concern on his Vanaprastha. So Vanaprastha means retired life. How he had retired from kingdom, retired from family, and taken up spiritual life seriously. So he was concerned how he maintained himself, and he finally glorified him. He glorified him as walking Tirtha. So he said, "You Vidura, Mahatma Vidura, you are You are just like, you don't have to go to the holy places. You are the holy place. You are the walking holy place. So the very famous verse, very beautiful verse, which we invoked in the previous session. Bhavat Bhagavata Tirtha Bhutaha Swayam Vibho Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swanta Stena Gadabhrita. So the verse says, my Lord, devotees like yourself are verily holy places personified. You are like walking holy places. Tirtha Kurvanti Tirtani. Because you carry the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your heart. So wherever you go, because the Lord is seated very comfortably and very nicely in your heart, that place wherever you go is also becoming a holy place, right? So that is the understanding. So this is the tattva. So in this way, we heard about Mahatma Vidura's activities, his return to Hastinapura, and then Maharaj Yudhishthira's pleasing inquiries unto Vidura. So in this way, we come to today's discussion. So we will move to Mahatma Vidura's purpose. What is Mahatma Vidura's purpose? And the mercy that Vidura wants to give to Dhritarashtra. That we will hear. So it ended with Yudhishthira Maharaj asking the question, thus being questioned by Dharmarajena, Mahatma Vidura gradually described everything he had personally experienced except news of the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty. So here we are putting a prequel. It's like a seed preview of what else is to come in the next following chapters. So the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the very mysterious way in which Lord Krishna disappeared, and how he also how his entire dynasty was destroyed, how Dwaraka was sunk. So all this we will hear in the next few chapters coming. But very interestingly, because this is being narrated by Sutta Goswami to Sanaka Rishi and the sages in the Naimisaranya forest. So just to create an interest, he drops this hint over here of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, and then he forgets about it and he continues talking about other Vidura and other topics. He doesn't come back to this yet. And later, at the end of this chapter, then the sages will ask, oh, you mentioned about the Yadu dynasty's destruction. Please tell us more. So then it will continue that from then onwards. Okay. So anyway, so he spoke about many things except the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. So then the next verse continues. Sa Karunaha. This is the reason why he didn't speak about the destruction of the Yadu dynasty was because Sa Karunaha. Mahatma Vidura is extremely compassionate. Sa Karuna. Karuna means compassionate. And therefore, he could not stand to see the Pandavas distressed at any time. So he knew that if the Pandavas knew about the destruction of the Yadavas and the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Pandavas will be completely sunken in misery. So he just came, Vidura just came from pilgrimage, and they were all so happy. So he didn't want to mention this point to them. Therefore, he did not disclose this unpalatable, apriyam, and unbearable durvishaham incident, because he knows the Pandavas cannot bear it, and he didn't want to be the harbinger of ill news, because calamities come of their own accord. So this is a very interesting point also. So it is the opinion of scripture that one should not be the bearer of bad news. It's not necessary. And Prabhupada explains a little bit further. Even though it is true, one does not have to speak about something which is bad. And, so according to Niti Shastra or civic laws, one should not speak an unpalatable truth to cause distress to others. Distress comes upon us in its own way by the laws of nature. So one should not aggravate it by propaganda. So that's Niti Shastra. Niti Shastra is civic laws, is civilization and civic laws. So generally, when bad news is coming and we know about it, we don't go around and monger it. Oh, this something is bad thing is going to happen. This, so we don't say all these things. So it is not necessary. because it causes it causes disturbance in people's mind. So the principle is called ahimsa. Ahimsa means one doesn't cause harm to another living entity. So when we talk about harm, there are harm in different ways. There is bodily harm, there is harm with words, right? And causing disturbance in the mind. So these are all also harm. So therefore one should not cause harm, because anyway these things will come, will somebody else will hear about it eventually, and it will happen anyway. So, and Bhagavad Gita also says pretty much the same thing. 17:15, there is a verse. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat swadhyaya bhashyanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchate. So this is discussing austerity of speech. So there are different types of austerity. So in this chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about austerity of speech. How should one speak? How should one not speak? So there are 5 points of how one should be watchful when one speaks. In fact, when we begin spiritual life itself, uh, Sukadev Goswami, Rupa Goswami tells in the nectar of instruction, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. One should control the urge of the tongue, right? So, Vacho means speak. So here we have the same thing. Anudvega karam vakyam. Uh, so what one must do is, first thing is anudvega karam. One should not speak something which is agitating to others, something which agitates others. You say something and it causes agitation, disturbance in their mind. So such thing, even though you know it, but you don't have to say it to that person. Let it come through some other means. And the second, austerity of speech. So before we speak, we have to ask ourselves, is it agitating? Is what I'm going to say agitating to someone? And then the next one is satyam. So satyam, it must be truthful. Is what I'm saying, is it truthful? Is it true? Do you know for a fact it's true? So this cancels off rumors, right? So no need to spread gossip or rumor, right? This is the second point. And this is very important, satyam. And the third one is priyam. Priyam. Priyam means, is it pleasing? Is what are we going to say? Is it pleasing to that person? And the fourth one is hitam. Hitam means beneficial. Is what we are going to say beneficial to another person? And finally, the last filter is swadhyaya bhashanam. Is it of the Vedic opinion? Is it a verse from the Vedic scripture, or is it from the Vedic opinion? Something which is not contrary to the scripture, right? So when we speak, as far as possible, we should try to follow these filters. And though it is said like that, but there are exceptions. One should always be satyam. Satyam is always, one should always be satyam. Whatever one speak, it should be truthful. Whatever one speaks should always be hitam. It should be beneficial to that person. Sometimes we may speak in a certain way which may not be beneficial, which is not pleasing, but it is beneficial to that person. Like, like how a parent sometimes scolds a child. So a parent sometimes scolds a child or tells something. The parent may use strong words, or like the teacher may use strong words to the child. But it is allowed because it is beneficial. Hitam. So Satyam and Hitam takes precedence over Anudviga Karam and Priyam. Not all the time one may, so as long as there is truthfulness, and as long as there is beneficence, beneficial, these two things existing together, Satyam and Hitam, if both are there, then you can you can drop the truth, the pleasingness or the agitation. So even if it is agitating to someone, so long as it's truthful and beneficial, both must be there, truthful and beneficial to that person, then it is allowed. right? Especially in preaching. So when we are preaching spiritual knowledge, we always say, death is coming, old age, death, disease. So these things are not, some people will say, yo, why are you so negative? Why are you talking always about death, disease, old age? You know, so that is Niti Shastra. Niti Shastra says, oh, all this is unpalatable. Let us only speak about nice things. No. But Dharma Shastra is higher than Niti Shastra. And and what do you call, Atma Shastra is even higher than Dharma Shastra. So knowledge of the soul, these things are more important. So when one is preaching, sometimes one may not always be able to be pleasing in words. One may not always be able to say something which may not agitate someone, right? Like in today's session, I'm going to show you some so later. Vidura is going to speak some very agitating words later, but it is satyam, it is true, and it is hitam. It will be beneficial for that person, right? So these are the austerities. So I hope this is understood very nicely. So anyway, but Vidura at that time didn't want to say about the uh, departure of Krishna to Yudhishthira Maharaj because he had a purpose. His purpose mainly was for Dhritarashtra. He came to Hastinapur to deliver Dhritarashtra. And he didn't want to be distracted. And anyway, this news will incapacitate the Pandavas. So he didn't want to mention it at that time. And there will be time later. So therefore, he didn't mention it. So anyway, thus Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person, Devavat, very nicely treated by Yudhishthira Maharaj, by his kinsman, remained there for a certain period. So this is to please his the Pandavas and all that. He just came, so he wanted to remain there for a short while, and then he went to speak to Dhritarashtra. Later we will hear. So anyway, Prabhupada says, saintly persons like Vidura must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. So this is the standard in treating, in welcoming spiritually very advanced personalities. So like sannyasis or gurus. So such the culture, the spiritual culture of the people is the Vedic culture is to welcome them very nicely. So usually you will see garlands being given or flowers being strewn. It's not that the spiritual person expects it. It's not like that. They don't expect it. They are very renounced, right? But these things are done for the pleasure of the Lord. The Lord becomes pleased by us treating, because he is like the ambassador of the Supreme Lord. So when one treats the ambassador of the Supreme Lord in such a way, one also gets blessings. One gets great benefits, great benediction. So that is for the sake of our own blessing, for our own purification, we we serve the great personalities in this way for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because they carry the Lord in their heart. So it is only the spiritual culture of the people concerned that makes interplanetary travel possible, even in the present body. So this is very interesting. So in those days, right, in different yugas, we have the devatas visiting Earth. So that was possible. Like we heard how Kunti Maharani invoked the Surya to invoke Yamaraj to get children from them. So that was possible in previous yuga. In Kali Yuga, they don't come. The devatas do not visit invisibly, right? Because of the strong the presence of Kali. Mahatma Vidura, a renunciate, did not return to his paternal palace to enjoy some material comforts. So this is the standard of pure devotees. This is the standard of those who are renounced. It's not that they go to these places because they want to enjoy material comforts. It's not that they go to big temples or they visit people's houses just to enjoy the facility, right? Maharaj, he Mahatma Vidura, he accepted out of his own mercy what was offered to him by Maharaj Yudhishthira. So they are renounced. They are thoroughly renounced. So they only accept to give blessings to the persons who are giving to them. That is the only purpose they accept, to create blessings for others. They provide opportunities for agyata sukriti, opportunities for mercy for the common population. Simply by well wishing them, serving them nicely, one gets great advancement. So his real purpose, Mahatma Vidura, he came there just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother. Who is his eldest brother? Dhritarashtra. So Vidura's purpose in coming to Hastinapur was not to enjoy the palace comforts. He was one single-minded in his purpose, to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother. In this way, bring sarvesham sukham, bring happiness to everyone. So that is his purpose. Because Dhritarashtra was in a very dire situation. We will hear about his dire situation in a while. So that's another reason why sannyasis go door to door to beg. They go door to door not so much because they want sustenance for themselves. They go because they provide opportunity for for the householders who are busy with their materialistic life, for them to have an opportunity to serve great personalities. So by doing this, the householders, they develop great mercy. So to create that mercy, these ambassadors of the Supreme Lord go begging door to door. That is their purpose. That is the actual reason why they actually beg. So why they beg? Because they want to enter into the Grahastha's house. Grahasthas are very proud of their wealth, very proud of their positions. So when one approaches in a very humble way, then the Grahastha will be, in a will be more nicer to that person, to receive that person in a better way. So that's the reason they do like this. So Prabhupada says the message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. So Mahatma Vidura came to give a message to to Dhritarashtra, and he gave this message to Dhritarashtra in everyone's in the presence of everyone, in a public assembly. And in this way, he brought Sarvesham Sukhams, joy to everyone. So this is the way spiritual knowledge should be heard, right? Any message like that should be heard attentively, and especially if spoken by a realized soul, it will act very, very strongly it will act powerfully on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. And by continuously hearing, one can attain the perfect stage of self-realization. So you already know, right? And then the verse continues. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra being cursed by Mandukya Muni, so this we already know. We heard this story in the previous session, right? We talked about how Yamaraj was cursed to become a Shudra. He was cursed to be a Shudra for 100 years on Earth planet. So therefore he came to Earth, right? So what happened when Yamaraj left his throne? So someone asked previously in the session, and I mentioned it was another Devata, Ariyama. So here this verse actually mentions it. As long as Vidura played the part of a Shudra being cursed by Manduka Muni, Ariyama officiated at the post of Yamaraj to punish those who committed sinful acts. So who's Ariyama? Aryama is a class of devatas. There are different types of devatas. Like there are the maruts, there are the different types of rudras. There are the different types of so there are different classes of devatas. So there is one class of devata called adityas. So these are the adityas, and usually the adityas will take turns to become the sun god. So in you know in there are in one day of Brahma, there are 14 times Indra changes position. So Indra, in one day of Brahma is very long. It's billions and billions of years. And in one day of Brahma, 14 times Indra takes position and then dies, and then takes another, and then another Indra comes and then dies, and then another Indra comes and then dies. 14 times it happens. So in these 14 times, there are also 14 times change of the entire uh, cabinet, you could say. So the cabinet of the Devatas, right? This from sun gods, from moon god, Surya Dev, Chandra Dev, Agni Dev, Vayu Dev. These are all positions, like Minister of Transportation, Minister of the Sun, Minister of the Moon, Minister of the Air. So like that, this is all positions. So Surya and all that. And it changes 14 times in one day of Brahma. So in each of these times, different personalities take that position. So these are the different types of Adityas who have taken the position of, usually they take the position of sun god. They become Surya Dev. So there are different types of, it's like that. One, this, that's Datta, Bhaga, Twashta, Savitra, Mitra, Aryama, Pushan, Ansa. So one of them is called Aryama. So Aryama is one of the, this Adityas. Aryama is one of the expansions of the Lord. He's one of the sub avatars, the avatars of the Lord in that sense, Saktyavesh avatar. So, like that, he took the position of Yamaraj when Yamaraj went down to earth. He officiated as the Yamaraj. So, these are the 12 Adityas just now I showed. So, now back, having won his kingdom and observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of his family, Maharaj Yudhishthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon Shriya. Shriya means opulence. So we have already heard about Maharaj Yudhishthira's opulence in previous chapters. So he is now repeating this. Having won his kingdom from the Mahabharata war and having observed the birth of one grandson competent to continue the noble tradition of the family, Parikshit Maharaj, we heard about that also, previous sessions. Maharaj Yudhishthira reigned peacefully and enjoyed uncommon opulence. The opulence was greater even than the Devalokas. In cooperation with his younger brothers, who were all expert administrators to the common people. So he had everything, right? He had by the grace of the Lord, due to piety, due to him being Dharma Raja. So by the grace of the Lord, he had everything. Uncommon opulence, kingdom beyond even any kind of description, as well as perfect family, very, very cooperative brothers, no disturbance at all in the relationship amongst them. There was no envy, no jealousy, nothing like that. All of them served Yudhishthira Maharaj, the eldest brother, very, very nicely and very cooperatively. In fact, the cooperation and the friendship that Pandavas had amongst themselves is one of the things that Krishna told them. I'm very pleased with you, Pandavas, because you all cooperated so very nicely. So he actually said that. He actually mentioned that to them. So this is one of the things that pleases the Lord. So in this way, but insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes. So time is creeping up. So nothing lasts forever in this world, right? Even Yudhishthira Maharaja's opulence and greatness, everything is about to eventually come to an end. So insurmountable eternal time, Kala, Parama, the great time. Kala means time. Parama means great. Imperceptibly overcomes. So that's the problem, right? In this material world, nothing remains. Everything, no matter how wonderful, how great, everything eventually becomes overcome by time. Just like, if you remember this person, Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson, when he was young, sorry, this is Muhammad Ali, sorry, not Mike Tyson. This is Muhammad Ali. Okay. During the previous, he's known as Cassius Clay. Then he became Muhammad Ali. So he was the greatest boxing champion in the world. And in his arrogance, he used to say his tagline, "I am the greatest." Each time he goes into a fight, he will shout this tagline, I am the greatest, I am the greatest. But it never lasted, right? Time overcame him, and eventually he became like this. He had Parkinson's disease, and then he had, he couldn't even walk, and then everything was shaky about him. His hands were shaky. So from I am the greatest to nothing. So this is what time does. So Sutta Goswami continues speaking. Those who are too much attached, Shaktanam Pramatanam, too much attached, and always engrossed, Tat Ihaya, in their thoughts, in family affairs, Griheshu. So, such personalities, particularly insurmountable eternal time, always overcomes them. So, these are the two things which one has to avoid when one is serious in spiritual life. Because this is Maya, right? Attachment is the cause of all distress in this material world. That is the truth. That is Satyam. Attachment is the cause of all distress in the material world. So, one should learn to be not too much attached, especially when one grows older, right? When one comes to understand more and more spiritual knowledge, one should learn to be more detached and always engrossed. Tat ihaya, in the engrossed in what? In engrossed in family affairs. Always. So there is a time, but as time goes, one should understand that these things are all temporary. So those who are very much attached to these, time becomes their greatest enemy and very powerful enemy. It will destroy. So Mahatma Vidura knew all this, and therefore he addressed Dhritarashtra. So this is the real reason why he came. He came to speak to Dhritarashtra, and very, very interesting what he will speak to Dhritarashtra, right? So he says, "My dear king." Now, Vidura and Dhritarashtra are very close. They are brothers, right? And they were very close. Even now, they are very close. Dhritarashtra, he loved him, and Vidura also loved Dhritarashtra very much. However, Vidura knew that Dhritarashtra was blind due to his affection for his son, and that allowed him to be blind spiritually also. So, how he became completely engrossed in Maya. So now he's old. So out of affection for his elder brother, he came back from his pilgrimage to speak to him. So this is what he said. My dear king, please get out of here immediately. Do not delay. Shigram. Now Dhritarashtra was very old, right? He was already very elderly before the Mahabharata war started, right? And now after the end of the war, he was very, very old. So Vidura is telling, right? Just see how fear has overtaken you. Bhayam agatam. How you have become overtaken by fear. Fear of what? Fear of death, old age, and disease. So now this is a so what? So this is not something which is priyam, obviously. So what Vidura is saying is not pleasing. Dhritarashtra is not going to be pleased to hear what he's saying. But Vidura, Vidura has spoken so nicely to Dhritarashtra so many times. Before, when Duryodhana was born and all the things happened, all the bad signs, Vidura advised Dhritarashtra. You see, so many people are saying this is a bad omen. Leave Duryodhana. He's going to destroy your entire dynasty. He didn't listen. Then Vidura spoke again and again, don't always favor your sons like this. It's not a good policy what you're doing. You're following Adharma. You're trying to kill the Pandavas. You're supposed to protect them. So all this advice he gave so many times, very nicely, sweetly he spoke, but all of this entered deaf ears. So like that, he became tired after so many good advices. But now time is running out for Dhritarashtra. No more time. He's already very old. No more time for simple sweet words. So therefore he abandoned Priyam, sweet words. He abandoned Anudvega Karam, not agitating to the mind. So his words were agitating to the mind, But because it came from Mahatma Vidura, whatever he was the well-wisher of Dhritarashtra, right? And therefore it was hitam. Whatever he spoke was beneficial, and whatever he spoke was satyam, truthful, and ultimately it would lead to the ultimate benefit, spiritual elevation. So therefore he spoke these words. Just see how fear has overtaken you. Bhayam agatam. This frightful situation cannot be remedied by any means or persons in this world. My Lord, it is Sa Esha Bhagavan Kala that has approached us all. So he's telling Dhritarashtra, Pratikriya na yasyeha kutaschit karhichit prabho Sa Esha Bhagavan Kala sarvesham na samagataha. Right? So he's saying, this frightful situation is coming now. You are now towards the end of your life, right? Time has overtaken you. Time is the Supreme Lord Himself. So either you bow to the Supreme Lord, or the Supreme, or the time, or you will bow down to time in the form of the Supreme Lord. So this is something which people don't understand. Atheists particularly, they will say, I will bow to no one. So Prabhupada will say, if you don't bow to God, then eventually one day you will have to bow. You will have to bow to death. God will come in the form of inevitable death. So he comes as Kala. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, Kalosmi, I am time. So that is the problem. So Prabhupada says, old age is the notice of the arrival of death, served by cruel time. So it is meant, this is the nature of this material world, right? So this is something which people, we see this in history, we see this happening in so many situations, but Maya is so wonderful that it still makes us forget. It still it still deludes us. It still makes us think that we can continue planning, that we could continue, having our own ideas. So, for example, so many empires have collapsed in the past, and all have been overcome by time. For example, we have Alexander the Great, this Alexander the Great, about more than 2000 years ago. This is more than 2000 years ago, 300 BC, around that time, before Christ. So this was Alexander the Great was known as a great conqueror. So this is the color here shows the empire of Alexander the Great. He conquered Egypt, he conquered parts of Europe, he conquered all the way up to Afghanistan, even to modern day Pakistan. Up to there he conquered, right? Long. But time overcame him. He died at the age of 32. Mysteriously, he died due to a disease or something. Some people say poisoning, some people say disease or whatever. But apparently, he died for 12 days. He suffered in his camp. He was in a military campaign trying to conquer another country. So in there, somehow, for 12 days, he was lying in his tent, writhing about in excruciating pain. Some say disease, some say poison or something. After 12 days, he died at the age of just 32 years old. This was the one of the greatest conquerors of on earth, on modern day, empire of Alexander the Great. So collapsed, overcome by time, but still more conquerors came. Then we had the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan, right? Is Genghis Khan. So even a bigger empire he had. So it is known that the empire of Genghis Khan is the largest empire, single joint empire. That means all one single piece of land. So this was the largest empire known in history, modern history lah. So that is Mongol Empire. So he also, but he lived up to 60 and he was still fighting, and he was about to attack one of the Chinese kingdoms of Xizia or something like that. And at that time he also succumbed to some injury. Actually, it said that a year before that campaign, he actually fell from a horse. And at that time, he suffered some injury. For 1 year, he was suffering. And then during that time, he succumbed to that injury and he died. So that was the great Genghis Khan, collapsed. Then we also have in modern history, we have the great Spanish Empire. So this is Spanish Empire starting from Spain over here. They conquered a little bit of Africa, some parts of Europe, Portugal, like that. And they conquered America, right? They killed all the natives. They mercilessly killed the native Indians, the Inca, the Aztecs, and then they also killed some of the other native Indians in other places in Mexico. So this was around 1492, also collapsed, right? And then we had this is said the British Empire. The British Empire is supposed to be the largest empire on earth. It's not one single mass, it's few places together. Australia, Malaysia, India, right? You can see here parts of Arab Peninsula, parts of Africa, right? Northern America. So all this all coming from the single kingdom here. 1583 to 1997. So few hundred years, almost 400 years, their empire. But still, eventually it all collapsed. The last one was Hong Kong. That's why 1987. Hong Kong is the last to go off, to go back to China. So, but little by little, one by one, all collapsed. So empires collapse over time. So whoever is under the influence of Supreme Kala must surrender his most dear life. Prane Priyatmae. So the living entity considers his life to be very precious. Pranae, the life to be Priyatmae. Priya means very precious, very dear. So whoever is under the influence of Supreme Kala must surrender his dear life. He has no choice. He has to surrender when the time is due. It is Sa Esha Bhagavan Kala that has approached us all. So he's telling Dhritarashtra, Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra. And what to speak of other things? So if life itself we give up, which is so dear to us, do you think we can hold on to our wealth, our honor, our children, our land, and our home? So all these other things obviously are much less precious than our own life. So what to speak of other things? Eventually, Kala, time, takes all these things away. So Alexander the Great, Kala overcame him. Genghis Khan, Kala overcame him. Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest, but Kala overcame him. Oops. This person also, Kala will overcome. And what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. So he's telling Dhritarashtra, you're old already, right? It's about time. Your father, Pitr, your brother, brother, well-wishers, Suhurt, and sons, Putra, are all dead and passed away. So Vidura is not mincing his words, directly telling, your father, who is Dhritarashtra's father? Vichitra Virya, right? So he died, he's long ago dead already. So his brother Pandu, Pandu is also dead. He's all his well-wishers, right? Who are his well-wishers? Bhishma, Drona, right? All of them are died. And sons, all his 100 sons, the Duryodhana, Dushashan, all of them are dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life, close to death now. Your body is now overtaken by Jaraya. Jaraya, Jara means old age. And you are living in the home of another. So you're supposed to be king, right? And you're living in another person's house. The indignity, right? You are living not only in another person's home, right? You are living in the home of who you tried to kill at one point of time. And now look at fate. Fate has made you live in the house of those people who you tried to cheat, who you tried to kill. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is very, very strong in this. He speaks like this very strongly to open the eyes of blind Dhritarashtra. Finally, he gives a final try. So Prabhupada says, Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. What is this? How does one protect oneself? We all have to be responsible for our own actions, right? In the end, when death is the final exam waiting for us, it is our actions in life that will actually speak for it. So, and the grace of the Lord. So, what have we done? What kind of actions one has done in one's life? So, they say life is the preparation, death is the examination. So, whatever actions and grace of the Lord we have collected throughout life, that will speak at the time of our examination at death. So, he's telling Dhritarashtra, look at you. What were your actions? Now you are at the time of your examination. Death's door is coming. One has to execute, therefore, Prabhupada says, his duty faithfully, as per scripture, free from sin, depending on the supreme authority, right? At the same time, execute devotional service for the Lord, right? One should therefore seek the protection of the Supreme Lord, for the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. The human form of life is meant to surrender to the Supreme Lord. That is the purpose of life. So if one spends one's life in some way, na eva swa alpam apyasya dharmasya, even a little advancement, even a little action one does, it goes a long way. Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. It will save you from the greatest fear. So that is the power of devotional service, spiritual activities. So then he continues, you have been blind from your very birth, andapuraiva. You are blind physically as well as spiritually. And recently you have become vadira, hard of hearing. He's trying to remind Dhritarashtra of how old age has crept up to him completely. You have become hard of hearing. So these are all symptoms of jara or old age. What are the symptoms of old age? Hard of hearing. Manda prajna, your memory is shortened and your intelligence disturbed. So we see that a lot nowadays, right? Forgetfulness, short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer, so many different terrible things, right? So these are all signs of, one doesn't have to have those diseases. Even without the disease, still, sometimes people forget names, right? So it's not really a disease, but it's basically disturbed memory. Sometimes one confuses one memory with another. So Manda Prajna, Vishirna Danta, your teeth are loose. So it becomes difficult. These are all the difficulties of old age. Biting is difficult. One cannot enjoy the food. One cannot chew. There is disturbances there. Manda Agni, your liver is defective. So even if we can chew, even if we eat, whatever we eat, we cannot digest. Our digestion becomes very, very poor. It becomes a shadow of what we could have once digested at one point of life. So these are all experiences of old age. All of us experience this in one form or of another. So in previous ages, people used to live much longer. In Kali Yuga, 100 years, but even that 100 years is declining as Kali Yuga advances. 100, 90, 80, right? 70, 60, 50. Today one of my classmates passed away. So 46 only. So, and he passed away. first of my classmates to pass away. Anyway, so it happens. Saraga kapam, you're coughing up mucus, another sign of jara, old age. Mucus accumulates in our system. There's more phlegm, right? This kind of situations happen. So these are all the signs of old age, the six transformations, right? All living entities come into being, they grow, they remain for some time, they produce byproducts, they dwindle, apaksha, dwindling. So these are all the signs of dwindling, right? And what's the next step? Death. That's what the next step is. Alas, even though, right, people, everyone dies, still Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, alas, how powerful are the hopes of living being to continue his life. Jivita Asha. You know the word Asha? In Tamil also we say Asa, Asa, Tosa. So the asa, the desire, jivita, to live is very, very strong in living entities. Even despite all the signs of aging, right? We know the story, right? I think most people know the story about how a man told death, once death came in front of the man, and the man told death, you please give me signs before you take me, huh? I want to know, I want to have clear sign, I want to enjoy my life, and you please give me sign first before your my death is going to come. So then, one day he just died. Then, when finally he saw death, he said, hey, you're supposed to give me signs. You told me you'll give me signs. Then said, yeah, I give you signs, but you ignored them. What signs? I didn't hear any. You didn't come and speak to me. I didn't speak to you, but I gave you signs. I made your hair turn white and you ignored me. And then I made your teeth become loose. You ignored me. I made your liver become defective. You ignored me. So these are all signs. But still, how powerful are the hopes of living beings to continue his life? So, therefore, there is always the search for the fountain of youth. It becomes a mystical thing, immortality amongst human beings. Everybody is after the fountain of youth. So, we have powerful, the capitalists capitalize on our fears. How the capitalists capitalize on our fears? By pumping money into the cosmetic industry, the fountain of youth, right? All kinds of things. I always see this advertisement, Pitera, the essence of youth. So you put that miracle water or something like that on your face, and then you become very young looking. All the wrinkles go off, it seems. I don't know. So anyway, cosmetic industry is one thing. Surgery, medicals. So all kinds of Botox, facelift, this that transfer, that transfusion, this pill, that pill, anti-aging pill. So many things that comes, all very, very horrible things. And then we have so many stories and books and fiction about the fountain of youth, the search for the fountain of youth. So it's very, very strong. Everybody is after this. It becomes a multi-billion dollar industry. Of course, they don't achieve it. Still, death comes, right? Sometimes sooner than later. So there are many, many examples in history. So we heard about how, Alexander the Great passed away at such a young age, despite all the power, despite everything. So here there's a history. History has many things to teach us. There's one famous history. This is in Europe, in Romania or something, Hungary. In Hungary, there's this Castle Castich. It's still there, Castle Castich. If you go there, previously it belonged to Countess Bathory, Elizabeth Bathory. This person, Elizabeth Bathory, she was very, very notorious. It seems she lived about the 16th century, around the 16th century at that time. So it seems she history. This is historical factor. She killed and tortured girls. What she did, she will catch all her mates. She will have different mates coming to her. She lived in a castle, right? And she will put the mates so in various torture chambers like this to collect their blood. So what she will do, she will collect their blood and she will bathe in their blood. Why she does that? Because she thinks it will keep her youth, so she can live longer, she will be beautiful and remain young. So this was her, and she even drank some of their blood. So this was the person lah. It's history, it actually happened. So a famous personality. She was a Catholic, but still Orthodox Catholic lah. But this is what she did, and not just one girl, two girl, three girl. She killed 650 girls. 650 girls, one by one, over a period of several years, almost decade. Every day, every few weeks, she will bring them, she will kill them. Finally, when they heard about it, when there was enough, because she was a very powerful person, she was a countess. So and it was not easy to persecute her. But finally, after a lot of complaints and a lot of problems, they stormed into her castle. And when they stormed into her castle, they found all these torture chambers. They found her in one of the rituals, bathing in the blood, and they arrested her. So this is all history. You can just Google it up. Elizabeth Bathory. Mm. So this is how strongly they want to hold on to their life. So Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, verily, you are living just like a household dog. Now he uses very strong words. Griha palavat. He uses the word griha palavat. Griha means house. Palavat means household dog. You are living just like a household dog and eating the remnants of food given by Bhima. Bhima parvajitam pindam. That's like the greatest insult. Amongst all the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra doesn't like Bhima the most, because Bhima is the one who killed all his 100 sons. Bhima took the vow to kill all the 100. When Draupadi was being disrobed, when Dhritarashtra did nothing and everybody else was laughing, Bhima made a terrible vow. I will kill all 100 sons of Dhritarashtra for doing this. Big and I will bash Dushashan, who caught hold of Draupadi's hair. I will bash him, and I will wash Draupadi's hair with the blood of Dushashan. So he did all this. He killed Dushashan, and he tore his heart away and washed the hair of Draupadi with the blood of Dushashan to keep his vow. And he killed Duryodhana also. And Bhima also was the one. So and he was very scared of Bhima also, Dhritarashtra. So now look at fate. Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, look at your fate. After you try to kill all of them, what you are doing now? You are just like a well-maintained household dog sitting in the house of your enemy who you once tried to kill, right? And eating the food left over by Bhima. Of course, not exactly the food left over by Bhima, but basically, he's being supported by the Pandavas. He's being maintained by the Pandavas. So he specifically invoked the name of Bhima to drive the arrow deep into the heart of Dhritarashtra, because he knew this Dhritarashtra is hopeless. He's blind, blind, blind. It's too late now. I need to really wake him up. So he pushed the arrow deep into his heart. He knew what would hurt him the most, right? But Vidura did this for a noble purpose, right? He had the well wishes of Dhritarashtra in his heart. So his purpose was hitam, for the benefits of Dhritarashtra. So Prabhupada said, people forget their permanent identity and become foolishly active for impermanent occupations, forgetting altogether their prime duty. So this is what happens. Prabhupada says in those days, there was only one Dhritarashtra. But in Kali Yuga, in every house almost there is a Dhritarashtra. People who work all their life, or spend their life fully engrossed in attachment and in family matters, and as age creeps up on them, they don't think of anything else. They continue only with their work and their family attachments until the point of death. So this is considered despicable. This is completely waste of human life. This is like one living like a dog. So Krishna, Vidura is saying, awaken yourself to spiritual pursuits. There is so much to hear, so much to do, so much to serve, so much to so many activities in the spiritual path, right? How long is one going to only do this one thing only? So especially when death is coming near. So Prabhupada says people forget their permanent identity. What's their permanent identity? That their spirit soul. They have nothing to do with this body. They have nothing to do with this family. They have nothing to do with this relationship. It's all temporary with this body, and it will end when this body dies. And then what is going to happen to the soul? So therefore, people foolishly forget. So that is the aim of scripture, to keep reminding us, and that is the aim of holy men, to keep telling society that please focus on the main aim of life. Hmm? And then Prabhupada continues, a sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. So this is not what Vidura did, right? So nowadays we have lots of sadhus like that. They will come and simply flatter, say some nice things. Oh, I will say nice things to you so that this person will keep giving me respect, or they will keep giving me money or something like that. So that is not real sadhu. Sadhu speaks the word of scripture. Remember the six austerities of speech. The last one, swadhyaya, uh, to speak scriptural truth, satyam, right? Hitam, which is beneficial, ultimately beneficial for the soul, right? Even at the cost of priyam, even at the cost of agitating others. Of course, best if we can do all this together, but if not possible sometimes, then at least truthfulness and scriptural truthfulness must be kept, right? So uh, that is what acharyas do. That is what holy men do. That's what sadhu does. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you try to kill. So Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, have you no shame? You are living a degraded life at the time of your death, right? Living on the charity, on the picture, right, of those people who you try to kill. You, you know, it's in how he tried to kill. Actually, according to Shastra, if someone does six different things to you, if someone does any one of these six things, that person, you have the right to kill that person. What are the six things? Number one, someone who tries to burn your house. If someone tries to burn your house, commit arson, then you have the right to kill that person. You do not incur sin. That is according to the rules of Dharma. Right? So Dhritarashtra did that. He did that to the Pandavas. He burnt their house. He lured them into the house of lack. We talked about this in the previous session. And he tried to kill them. But he failed. But he tried. And then he also gave poison. Poison is the second thing. If somebody poisons another person, that person has the right to kill them. Right? So that is also without incurring any sin. And Dhritarashtra did that also. He poisoned Bhima. When Bhima was a very young child, he didn't do it. The Duryodhana did it, but he knew about it. Dhritarashtra knew Duryodhana was going to poison Bhima, and he didn't say anything. So, and Duryodhana did it because he knew Dhritarashtra will not stop him. So the fault goes to Dhritarashtra as well. So he also is complicit in the murder. So poisoning. So he did two of these things. Did he stop there? No, he went on to do other things as well. You insulted their married wife. So it is said that in Dharma, if someone smirches the honor of your wife, right, you have the right to kill that person. So, as what was done to Draupadi, isn't it? They pulled her hair and brought her to the assembly of men when she was in her period. and they started to disrobe her in the public assembly of the capital city of the world, in the eyes of everyone. So this is what they tried to do, and Dhritarashtra was there, and he didn't stop them, though he was the king, and though Draupadi asked for his help. So therefore he insulted the married wife, so he deserved to be killed also. Third reason for him to be killed. What else he did? He usurped their kingdom. So if somebody takes away one's home, right? If somebody steals away your home unlawfully, then according to Dharma, one can kill that person without incurring sin. So that also Dhritarashtra did. He chased the Pandavas, he sent the Pandavas into exile for 14 years, away from their rightful place as princes in Hastinapur. Unrighteously, he did this. So that's another reason he should be killed. And he stole their wealth. When he sent them to their forest, he took everything from them. He only sent them in forest clothes, removed all their jewelry and their wealth from them. So, according to scripture, if somebody if somebody steals one's wealth, then you have a right to kill that person without incurring sin. So, these are the six ways, these are the six justifications to kill someone. If somebody gives you poison, there's one more. This is so far five. The sixth justification is if somebody attacks you with weapons. So that is also true. Mahabharata war happened. Dhritarashtra was eager. He wanted to know. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveda yuyutsavaha. Oh Sanjaya, tell me, are they going to, what are they? They are now in the holy place of Dharmakshetra. My sons and the sons of Pandu, what are they going to do? He was anxious. He was anxious to know whether they will fight or whether they will be where they will have peaceful dealings. He wanted them to fight. So he wanted them to kill each other, to kill the Pandavas. So six reasons why somebody can be killed. And Dhritarashtra did all of this to these people, to the Pandavas. So Vidura is reminding them, you did this, you did all these things, and now you're living in their house, eating their charity, living in a despicable life like a household dog, despite your old age, which has crept up to you with your loose teeth and your lost memory and everything. So, despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live, even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly kripanasya, miserly means kripana means miserly. Your body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. So Vidura is reminding Dhritarashtra, even though you are so strongly attached to life, even though at the cost of honor you don't care, but time cannot be overcome. It is catching up to you. Your body will not last. You will deteriorate, right? So he's forcefully reminding Dhritarashtra. Very, very strong words. So Prabhupada makes a comment. It is better to take the right path even at the risk of death. So actually, there was once a great king. Somebody asked the great king, what is more important, fame or life? And then the king said, actually, most people will say life, but actually fame is more important. Because life is brief, and when you die, you die. People may not remember you. But if you do great acts, when you die, people will remember you for generations. So fame is greater than life. So Prabhupada says it is better to take the right path even at the risk of death. So this is the conclusion of scripture also. And especially what is the right path? There are many, many wonderful paths. There is dharma, moral, and all kinds of things. But the ultimate good is to use human life to achieve the real purpose of human life, which is to become the Krishnera Nityadas, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas, to be the servant of Lord Krishna. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries. I repeat, human life is not meant to become an engineer, to become a doctor, to become a lawyer, to become an accountant, to become a millionaire, to become a great personality, to have. No, that is not the purpose of human life. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence. And life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. So that is important for us to understand. 5,000 years ago, there was one Dhritarashtra, but at the present moment, there are Dhritarashtras in every home because people have forgotten the goal of life. People have forgotten the real purpose of human existence. So we see people, going on and on due to bad planning, due to all kinds of things. To stick to family life to the end of one's human life is the grossest type of degradation, and there is an absolute need for the Viduras to educate such Dhritarashtras even at the present moment. So, very nicely said. So, basically, yes, family life is important, it's dharma, we have to do our duty, but one should not be engrossed and attached to it to the end of life. One should move on to spiritual matters, right? So therefore, there is a need for people like Viduras. The Viduras are the preachers to educate such Dhritarashtras even at the present moment. So then, my Guru Maharaj would like to say, when someone wants to leave, so now it's not that we are recommending everybody leave the family and go off. It's not like that. Point is, don't be engrossed. Grandparents and all that, it's not, one should be finished with family life. One should bring up the child in such a way that the child should be independent in taking care of his own family, right? So nowadays, that's the problem with Kali Yuga, isn't it? Everybody is working, father is working, mother is working. Who has to take care of the child? Grandmother, grandfather. So grandmother and grandfather remains engrossed with family life until the very end. So that is what happens with women's liberation, right? Before that, mother used to stay at home. Even now, also in India, you go, many people they get married, but eventually, they give up their job. So the wife stays at home, the husband works, and the grandparents are free. They are relieved from family responsibilities. So by the time 50, 60, they can concentrate their life in serving the mission of the Supreme Lord, in preaching, the preaching movement, in dedicating one's life fully in service, and at the same time giving encouragement and giving example, setting an example for the future generation. So, and that keeps one's mind sharp. Those who take up the spiritual life seriously, their mind remains sharp even at the end of old age. They don't usually, we have so many devotees in our Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada's disciples, all of them are 75, 76, 80, and not one of them have dementia or Alzheimer, not one of them have memory loss. All of them are very sharp in the mind. So this is what spiritual life does. It is the ultimate protection from this kind of situations. So one should learn detachment. One should learn to be not attached to so many things which are temporary, especially family life, right? As they grow older. Mm. And one should move on. So that is the purpose, that is the message of this chapter. He is called undisturbed, who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Now, Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, he's telling him about the jnana path. Remember, there are two paths to spiritual life. There is the jnana path and there is the bhakti path. Now, in the jnana path, one has to give up everything and one has to go to a holy place, secluded place, and remain there alone and then practice spiritual life. And in this way, he becomes, he goes to meditation and all that. But in Kali Yuga, that is no longer practical. And in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna tells in so many ways, don't give up and just go off like that. It doesn't work so easily when you are not renounced, right? Otherwise, you become a pretender, but your mind is still disturbed. So he says, instead, do your duty, but dedicate the fruits to me. Krishna says that is better. So the bhakti path, it begins with buddhi yoga. In the beginning, we have our families, we have our duties, we do everything, we do it for the pleasure of the Lord. We use the money and we use the results for the pleasure of the Lord. We cook food, we serve the Lord food, we offer to the Lord, and we bring up our family in Krishna consciousness. We use the money for preaching purposes and so forth. So in this way, we dovetail our material duties for spiritual purposes. But that is Buddhi Yoga. Eventually, we must go to pure devotional service, right? And that means it can go, but up to a point. One should not be fully engrossed in our family duties or material duties till the end of life. There is something called Vanaprastha. There's Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Sannyasa is not compulsory, but Vanaprastha is compulsory. Retirement. What is Vanaprastha? Retirement. So that is there, retirement. So Prabhupada says from the age of 50 onwards, one should seriously begin retirement. One should start planning for retirement. So, and retirement means not retiring from everything, retiring from material work and working for the Supreme Lord. That is what retirement is, right? So that is a better path. Now, he's not telling that to Dhritarashtra because Dhritarashtra is not able to take up bhakti. So, because Dhritarashtra, so anyway, we'll come to that. I explain that. So here Vidura is saying, he is called undisturbed. So now, therefore, because Dhritarashtra is not able to take up bhakti, therefore, better than that, he's not, since he's not able to take up bhakti, better than doing nothing and remaining like a household dog, eating the foodstuff given by Bhima. So Dhritarashtra is advised to at least take up the jnana path. So therefore, go to a secluded place, for practice dhyana yoga, free from all obligation, quit the material body before it becomes useless. So he's telling, time is of an essence. Don't waste time. Immediately go, leave this place and go to a holy place or a secluded place and perform meditation. So it advising Dhritarashtra to do that. So as I said, Dhritarashtra cannot do bhakti yoga because of two reasons. Reason number one is Dhritarashtra is envious of Krishna. He's envious of the Pandavas. Because he's envious of the Pandavas, he's envious of Krishna. Right from their birth, Dhritarashtra was envious because they were going to be the king. He was attached to the kingdom. He wanted to be king. He couldn't be king. So he wanted his sons to be king. His sons also couldn't be king. And they became king. The Pandavas became king. So it just never left him. So he was envious of the Pandavas. So one who is envious of devotees is also envious of the Supreme Lord. Remember in chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, I am telling you this now, Arjuna, because you are not envious of me. So to receive devotional knowledge, one cannot be envious of the Lord or the devotees. So Dhritarashtra was envious. So he could not practice bhakti. Second reason was even worse. The second reason why he couldn't practice bhakti was even worse. Worse because he committed aparad to devotees. Dhritarashtra tried to kill the Pandavas. He tried to do so many bad things to them. And he never apologized. So, and yet he lived in their house. Of course, the Pandavas forgave him and they treated him with the best of respect. But still, Dhritarashtra never really apologized. And he never repented in his heart either. So he was aparadi, an offender. So one who is offensive can never take up bhakti. So because of that, Vidura knew this and he thought, no choice for this person, but he's my brother. I need to help him. So therefore, please at least take up this path. And therefore, he spoke such strong words to Dhritarashtra out of love for him, so that these words, he knew otherwise he will not budge. So these words will move him into action and, and give birth to the determination which is necessary for Dhritarashtra to carry on this very difficult path. So that's the reason he spoke in this way, in such strong ways. So anyway, Prabhupada says, the human body is especially meant for cultivating knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, without which life becomes full of anxieties and miserable conditions. But as I said, not everybody can be devotees, although they should, is the best path. But due to envy, due to offenses, these things can be a problem. So for these people, the Lord also provides another path, the jnana path, right? Which is more difficult because they are envious. They reject the mercy of the Lord. So naturally, the path becomes more difficult, but still it is possible, especially in the previous ages. But in Kali Yuga, it is very, very difficult, right? So self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection. So either way, whether it's devotional path or the jnana path, right? Both also self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family. And if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or dhira. So that's why Kunti Maharani, even though she is very, very loved and she's beloved to all the Pandavas, towards the end of her life, she is old also, Kunti Maharani. And when she met Krishna, remember Kunti Maharani's prayers? Twayi me ananda vishaya matir madhupati asakre ratim udvathat ada gange vaugam udanvatihi. Oh Krishna, uh, oh Madhupati, Lord of sweetness, let me only, just like how the river Ganga flows towards the sea, undisturbed and unhindered, let me also always focus my mind to your lotus feet without being disturbed. Please give me this benediction. And before that, she said, please sever all my affection for my family members. Please remove my affection for my family members so that I can concentrate fully on my affection towards you, so that I do not get distracted with anything else. So this is her very, very advanced consciousness at her old age. So this is the idea, this is the understanding behind it. We have no choice in the matter, right? Because even if we don't develop this detachment, it is going to become the greatest pain, because this attachment is going to be severed whether we like it or don't, right? Nothing lasts forever. No relationship lasts forever. It's going to be severed one day. So better we develop the detachment, and when it happens, it can happen in a spiritual way rather than it happens in a frustrated, miserable mode of passion and mode of ignorance way, which will only ensure us another birth. So that is ultimately the understanding. But in devotional life, it's very nice. You don't have to artificially break away from everything. You simply have to connect what you love to Krishna. You connect your family to Krishna. At the same time, you develop some detachment, but you don't have to leave everything. We just have to focus more and more in Krishna's service. And by focusing more and more on Krishna's service, automatically detachment will rise in our heart. We don't have to work for it separately. Simply by working in devotional service and hearing and chanting, the more we hear about the power of detachment, the more we hear about all these pastimes, it will arise in our heart automatically by the grace of the Lord. So that's the beauty of bhakti, the path of bhakti. It is not painful. It is susukam kartum avyayam. It is blissfully performed. There is no artificial pain. Right? So we stop here. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Right, so any questions? A bit heavy today, philosophically, but that's what Bhagavatam does. Here and there, it punches us, it injects important thought. Yes,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Haribol.
There's one interesting statement Prabhu was telling.
Mm,
Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence.
mm,
And life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goals.
mm,
Now, if human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries in the material existence,
mm.
how to achieve the desired goals, Prabhu? Desire got 1 million in the mind. Or am I translating the statement wrongly?
When they mean the desired goal means to come out of this cycle of birth and death, to break the cycle and to go back to Godhead. That is the
But
desired
is
goal.
but is that the desire every human being has? Only those who are engaged in the spirituality,
Mm,
they have this desire. But those who are materialistic,
mm.
I doubt, bro.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why we have to open their eyes. That's why Prabhupada said preaching is important. That's why we have to distribute the books. That's why we have to pass this message to everybody. If nobody passes this message, then nobody will know. Like we all didn't know also. We all thought life is just meant about going until somebody came and gave us a book, or somebody came and told us and convinced us. So that's the importance of preaching. We have to go to different parts, meet different people, and somehow pass this message.
So Prabhu, one more thing.
Mm.
So this desire goal should be back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Oh, so the whole statement meaning is the desire should be back to Godhead, is it?
Yes. We should know the purpose of human life. What is our purpose? That somebody should has to tell us, right? Then we know. Then we set that as our desire. Our desire is to go back to Godhead, to achieve Krishna Prem. So when we put that as our goal in life, everything else becomes secondary. It's like we don't lose track of our goal. We do other things, we do our other duties, but we don't lose track of our main duty. So that's what we means.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you very much.
Okay, right. Yeah. So you brought up a very important point, Prabhu. Yeah. So that is the importance of preaching. So just like how Vidura, what did Vidura do? He came out from his holy place, went straight into the palace of Hastinapur, and injected this knowledge directly into Vidura, into Dhritarashtra. So sometimes forcefully it has to be done. Sometimes sweetly we do it, right? So he did do sweetly. There are different ways of preaching. So one can preach, we give them prasadam, we give them books. So in the beginning, we meet family members or we meet other people outside. We are nice to them and everything. But sometimes when somebody is in the deathbed, when somebody is close to life, then there's no more time for all this other things. So one has to just go straight to the point. Say, look, you are now like this. Please take it up, do something. It's never too late. Even at the end of life, even a small thing, they take it up. Like just like Ajamila, you see. Ajamila spent his entire life in sin, doing all kinds of sinful activities, even though he had spiritual knowledge. But towards the end of his life, somehow he spoke the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then he was able to. What's that noise? Okay, sorry, some kind of noise. So anyway, Ajamila, at the end of his life, he spoke the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that saved him. So even a little, swa alpamapyasa dharmasya trayate mahatubaya. All right. So it's 9:45. I think we can stop here. Any further questions anytime, please feel free to ask. Any questions, all questions are welcome. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
One
Hare
second,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.